Hello! It is I, Esther, and this is my final project personal reflection video. Woo! Roll film! Alright, so over the course of many lessons and many weeks, I learned many things. From more technical things, like about the basics of camera work, how to operate and set up the NX5P, a boom mic, a mixer, lights, and C-stands, to more theoretical things like the 180-degree rule and the rule of thirds, camera shot sizes, depth of field, shutter speed, how to frame, how to edit, how to format and write a good screenplay, nuances, directing, and blocking. This was all extremely useful. It was useful in helping me understand and execute the things needed to make a good film. Why? Because all the technical skills made me more proficient in my craft, and the more theoretical things allowed me to get better shots and understand the thought process and planning behind every shot, every movement, and every word even. The best thing I learned was probably directing and the 3-act structure of the plot and story in films. This was especially interesting to me as I never really gave much thought to what I saw on screen, and it was especially eye-opening for me to see all the thought and intentionality behind every movement and action, like with blocking and nuances. And now that I've learned the 3-act structure, I can't help but dissect every single movie that I watch, and I realize just how important it is in crafting a good story and film. The most important thing I learned about myself through this whole process was actually my faults. For one, I learned that I need to be less stressed. When I started this project, I was rather stressed about the script and the tight deadlines and such. And I'm just naturally a person who likes to plan things out and stick to that plan. But throughout the course of this project, we made many last-minute changes to the script according to how the actors felt was more natural, and Kevin allowed them to ad-lib certain lines. And those moments turned out to be the best moments. Those spontaneous, unplanned scenes and moments that we decided to add in along the way as we saw fit actually turned out to be some of the best moments and scenes, though unplanned. For example, the part with the clothes rack was added in rather last minute, but it turned out to be one of the funniest scenes in the film. The prop with the bouquet of roses was also on a whim and completely unplanned for. My mom just decided to put it in my bag that day because she thought it might come in handy, which it did, so thank you, Mom. The prop also led to another unscripted acting improvisation where Elwing Mando presents the girl with the roses only to smoothly take her hand instead. And so that was a very good improvisation. And even during the shoot, I noticed how the actors and everyone, though taking their job seriously, were upbeat and enthusiastic. They would joke and laugh and motivate themselves, and goof around even. Seeing that made me relax more, and I learned that unplanned things aren't exactly bad, and that I should stop being so stressed about everything, and that it's good to just go with the flow sometimes. Well, for the problem that we faced with the searing sun, we brought along a cooler box with canned and bottled drinks so that the cast and crew could cope better in the heat. On the first day in the park, we weren't very prepared for the heat and the sunlight, and that made it very difficult to see the screen of the camera, and so we improvised, and Bing, our cameraman, used the Mexican sombrero hat and his jacket to shield the screen from the sun. And as for rain, we did what we could by checking the weather forecast every day and putting all our equipment under a large shelter in case of a sudden downpour. This proved to be a very good idea, seeing that we had to take shelter for a couple minutes at least every single day that we were in the park. We also brought along umbrellas, which came in handy especially during the second last day of the shoot in the park, when our usual and only shelter was taken up by other people and it started raining heavily. We had to run across the bridge to the void deck of the nearby HDB flats, trying as best as we could to keep everything dry with our umbrellas. This whole project has taught me so much about teamwork. Firstly, sympathy and empathy. Being on a team means being with people, and people aren't one-dimensional. They have emotions and feelings and their personal struggles and difficulties and backgrounds which others may not know about and might not see outwardly displayed. But that all influences how they behave and why they do what they do. For example, in my group, I remember on the last day of shoot in the park, we were all feeling exhausted and tired, and some of our group members were injured and in physical pain, like Thea, who got hit by a motorcycle the day before. And so her shoulder and whole left arm was in pain, and so she couldn't operate the boom mic that day. and Luke had to take over. And on top of that, on that particular day, our camera batteries died while we were shooting our last scene because I had brought home the camera bag the last day and I was so exhausted that I forgot to charge the batteries, and that, I will admit, was entirely my fault. And I remember I felt so bad that I was actually close to tears, simply because I was so mad with myself that I had let my group down and I messed up. But the thing is, even though my group could have easily blamed me and they would have been absolutely justified in doing so, they didn't. I remember when the camera died, we just sat on the ground in silence for a while. I had my head buried in my hands in absolute shame and guilt, and I was bracing myself for passive-aggressive verbal accusations and whatnot. But what I felt instead were Thea and Fengi's arms around me. They hugged me and told me it was okay. And then the rest of the group joined in and started to comfort me. Secondly, responsibility. Everyone has their own individual roles and part to play in a group. Everyone is responsible to do their part and to do it well for the whole picture to come together, like a puzzle. Everyone in my group took their responsibility seriously. Everyone was on the ball, and even though everyone was tired, no one complained. Everyone gave it their best. Kevin acted out basically every scene with the actors. Bingtia practiced the camera movements and stood under the hot sun the whole day. Thea squatted in an awkward position in order to get the sounds needed, and our actors, Ryan and Mark, were both very cooperative and they never once complained about anything. In fact, there were moments where they felt they could do better and they themselves asked to do the scene another time. What's more, we not only took our own roles seriously, we also took the roles of our other group members seriously. And though we respected and gave space for the other members to do their job, we were also quick to lend a helping hand when the other needed assistance with their jobs. And that leads me to my third point, which is lending a helping hand. I learned that in a group, we are only as strong as our weakest link. As one person fails or falters, the whole group falters too. Like a well-oiled machine, we cannot do without each other. And so there's no such thing as it's not my job, it's not my problem. Everyone supported each other in everything that we did. When one of our group members needed help with their duties, no one hesitated to jump in and help. For example, when Thea's arm got hurt, she couldn't hold the boom mic and Luke volunteered to take over for the day. On our first day of shoot, with all the main cast, Ryan and Mark, everyone pitched in to set up the office. Everyone, including our actors, helped to set up the IKEA furniture, while Thea and I set up the signs, posters, and decoration. Everyone pitched in and helped, even though it wasn't their role per se. Well, firstly, Mr. Adrian put all the lessons online and used the class time instead for more hands-on teaching. I personally thought that was a great idea because though theory is important, getting practice and physically executing those theories are extremely important as well. And so by putting the lessons online, we get to learn and understand the theories and principles and lessons at our own time and pace, and then we get to do practical work in class where we can have guidance when we need it. We faced many setbacks as a group. Firstly, the first draft of my script was completely scrapped, thank God, because it was a mess. But nevertheless, I had to rewrite a whole new script in less than a week as my second draft, and so Kevin, my director, and I stayed up all night till 5 AM just to finish writing the entire new script the day before we had to show our second draft. Secondly, it rained almost every day of our outdoor shoot in Bishan Park. Thirdly, on what was supposed to be the last day of our shoot, the battery died, as I said earlier, my fault, and we had to come back to the park on National Day to shoot the last scene. And so, in spite of all these challenges, my group and I never once gave up or was even upset about it. We rolled with the punches and made do with what we got. And even though we started filming the earliest and also ended up having to film extra days due to weather and the time schedule of actors, and we were all extremely tired, but no one complained. And though it would have been easy to get angry and start pointing fingers when things got wrong, I was blessed with a group that didn't. A group that strived to uphold one another, a group that made a conscious decision not to throw blame on another person, a group that was forgiving and kind and understanding toward each other, and a group that knew everything would be alright because no matter what, we would do it together and we would bear each other's burdens along the way. And so through those experiences, we not only learned resilience by not giving up, but we also learned how to rely, lean, and be a support to each other so that we could all persevere and be resilient together as a team.